I'm excited to talk to you. This has definitely been the most rescheduled interview I've done. So I think we mixed up our dates first, and then you had to reschedule. No, I had to reschedule. Then you had to reschedule, and
Yeah, you
then
had COVID, right?
that was it.
Yeah.
Yes, I had COVID, and then something else happened.
Oh, I think I had a yeah, we had a
You had an appointment, but
baby
then
appointment. Yeah.
yeah, I thought there was something in between where one of my kids was just being a tyrant or something. Maybe there was three. I don't know. Anyway, um, and then I logged on and my mic wouldn't work and my headphones wouldn't work. And then you logged on and your headphones and mic wouldn't work. So yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
Um, so it's great to talk to you. We've an awful lot to cover and a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that I don't know anything about. So I'm probably gonna ask a lot of stupid questions.
Oh, it's all good.
Um, we'll start off easy. What's in your cup there? I see you drinking something.
Oh, it's just an Americano with a splash of milk.
Oh, and are you,
Yeah.
where's the Americano from? Have you got a machine or
Yeah, we have a machine and yeah, I don't even know. My wife got it. I don't know, it's some fancy one and I just
does it
grind.
does it have like an espresso arm on it? Is it like a barista style machine or is it like a push button?
It is barista style because you can froth the milk.
Okay.
It grinds the beans. It's really good. We love it. Like we very rarely go get coffee from. We just at home drinking coffee, so we don't
Yeah.
have to go out and get it anymore.
Is it silver?
Is it silver?
The machine, not the coffee.
Oh, um,
Or like
let me go
gray.
check. Let me go check real quick.
I'm
It's
pretty
just right around
confident
the
it's
corner.
yes,
Ooh,
Breville. That's the one I thought it was going to be.
Breville Barista Express.
Yeah, because everyone I interview in the UK, Ireland, or Europe that has a machine and isn't like fucking stupidly into coffee,
Yeah.
it's a Sage barista, and everyone stateside it's a Breville barista. And as far as I can tell, it's the same machine. And are you like, do you get beans? Do you have like a subscription, or do you buy beans local, or what do you do for that?
We do buy beans locally from here in San Antonio. There's a company that we randomly came across. Babe, do you remember what they're called? Texas Grounds Coffee Roaster. We came across them one day. We were out riding motorcycles and we really liked it. And so we'll order from them like 4 or 5 bags at a time. And she actually just ordered some yesterday. So
That's cool.
yeah.
How long have you been growing your beard for?
I've had a full beard since 2010. I've had some form of facial hair.
5 years.
I've had some form of facial hair since maybe like 2000. So I used to do the goatee. I had a handlebar mustache for a while. I would try all kinds of different stuff, and then 2010 I went full beard. Just before,
What style would you call that? Is that like, I'd call that like ZZ Top.
yeah, but not a lot of people know ZZ Top. It's usually um, older people who make that reference.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm 40. I'm about to be 41. So I mean, I know who ZZ Top is, but I bet
I
if
only
you
know I
ask,
only know that one song where they're standing in front of a car.
yeah,
Give me all your loving, isn't that it? Yeah.
they're also in. They make a little cameo in Back to the Future 3. If you
Oh,
remember
maybe
that
that's why
movie,
I know it.
yeah,
That's probably because that's more my you know, vintage.
yeah.
Um, is there much maintenance in that? Because I know, like, I've like I hesitate to call mine a beard in your company, but I have hair on my face, and I find like I get like dry, like I feel
Yeah.
like underneath feels kind of dry. So I'd say yours must be just fucking ridiculous, is it?
Yeah, I think it's from what I understand. So when I first started growing it, I didn't do anything, and I would get the same thing. I'd get that dry, itchy skin. So um, you have to condition it, like in the shower periodically. But then when you get out of the shower, not drying it properly can help can create that kind of
Oh, okay.
dryness, itchiness. But then beard oil and beard balms, basically, which is good for the hair, but it also gets down on the skin. And
And do you have any of those? You know the way that you see those like beard straighteners? You ever do any of that? No. It just falls
No,
that way
this
naturally.
is just how it is, and it's weird because it's my brother's beard is like more I don't know, like some beards that feel like the hair interlocks,
Okay.
and it looks really dense. Mine's like kind of long and I don't know, stringy. I don't know how to describe it. Um, but no, like maintenance wise, yeah, a little bit. I mean, a little bit every morning. And then for workouts, I'll either put it in a braid
Throw it
or
over my shoulder.
I'll just like tie it in a knot, like a little beard bun.
Oh yeah. Have you
Because
seen that
sometimes
video?
it'll get
The
caught under my arm.
I've seen the meme that's doing the round. I think, oh fuck, I really want to credit whoever put it up, and I'm not. It might have been meme for time or what meme. Um, it was like no such thing as bad hair, don't care, or something where a girl gets her
Yeah.
ponytail stuck. I'm
Ugh.
imagining that happening to you in cleans. Where, like
Um,
you do one rep max, you drop the bar in celebration, and just follow with your head.
it's never gotten caught. It tends to like whatever the natural shape of the like the clavicle and the chest and stuff. It's never really an issue. And then if I put
Yeah,
it in a braid, it just stays right under the bar. Um, I will get a little bit of like beard whip, like say like on a squat clean. The beard will kind of whip me in the face, but that's about the extent of it.
adding insult to injury.
Yeah,
Um, okay. So we mentioned that you had to reschedule this because you and your uh partner are expecting.
yeah,
Um, that's like pretty soon, right?
yeah. It's the next Monday, the 16th. We have a scheduled C-section. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Is that we didn't have we've two kids. You have another kid, do you?
From a previous marriage, yeah.
Okay. Um, from your previous marriage or her previous marriage?
From mine, yeah,
Okay. So you've done this dance. You've done this baby dance before, so you kind of have a vague
yeah.
idea of what to expect, I suppose. Um, was that a natural birth or a C-section, the first kid?
Natural.
And how are you? Are you like calmer this time because it's because you know what's coming, or are you more worried because there's kind of different variables and stuff?
Um, I'm I'm a little worried in the sense that you know, I'm gonna try and document it with photos, and I'm hoping that like watching her get cut open and then pull this human being out of her, stomach with blood and everything. Hopefully I don't lose my lunch. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. How'd you break
yeah,
that camera? Well,
yeah,
God.
it's all insured.
And okay, wow. So you're gonna take pictures while it's happening. That's
Hmm.
intense. That's not gonna be a photo album you're gonna break out at Christmas dinner. Be like pass it around the
Yeah.
table.
Oh yeah, check
Um,
this out.
yeah. Um, speaking of cranberry sauce, have you seen these pictures? Um, and are you how so you've been because your first kid is old is like I'll stab a guess at like 14.
He looks 14. He's 11.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so that's a while ago. So are you kind of trying to remember things like like little tricks and stuff? Or are you just happy because obviously if she's learning everything, you're just happy to both be at the same stage, I suppose, and relearn things?
Yeah, I remember very little. Yeah, honestly, what I remember is not being much help or much use. At least in the first year, right? It's like, overnight, yeah, you help if you can. You take the baby, try to console the baby, change diapers and stuff, but mostly, um, it's the baby and the mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm just here support role, whatever she needs. Um, that's that's what I'll be doing. So I
That's the job
honestly,
though.
yeah, exactly. But it's I might as well be starting over. It's all a blur to me at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we had one, and then we decided to have another. I remember we heard a stat that you lose 6 months sleeps in the 6 months worth of sleep in the first 2 years. So we were like, "Fuck it, let's make it a year out of four and just have the two of them like
yeah,
close by." Because I was like, at least we'll remember everything, and we won't be like, "Why is this happening?" And like have to relearn all the stuff, and we can be like, "Oh yeah, that actually happened like a year ago, so that's fine."
yeah,
Um, but yeah, and obviously there's other downsides of having them so close. But yeah, no, I think the dad's job by and large, especially like where we have been, well, I say we, the royal we, have been breastfeeding. So I was essentially obsolete
Yeah,
for, you know, I was just like, I'll empty the dishwasher, I'll cook dinner, I'll make breakfast, I'll
exactly.
look after the other kids. So yeah, I think there's two very different roles, but I think you could make her life a lot easier or a lot harder depending on how you do your secondary role, I think.
Yeah.
Um, are you excited about it? Are you excited about um obviously you're excited about having a new kid, I suppose, but are you excited about like the
Yeah.
challenge of it and like that side of things?
Yeah, I am excited. I have a son, and our the next one's gonna be a girl, and so that's gonna be a whole new experience for me.
Oh,
And
okay. So you found out.
yeah, everyone says like, oh, girl dad, like, whatever the relationship between the daughter and the father. So I'm interested to see, you know, how it is and experience that for the first time and try to help her grow up and be a tough, independent, strong-minded woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, there is because my our first was a girl, and there is like you see, I kind of don't really like. Obviously, I know our son, but I just there isn't at the same engagement yet, the same level
mhm,
of like back and forth, or the same level, and I've had like more like time invested with her, but like yeah, there like I'd consider my relationship with her like pretty special, and like I don't think it's uncommon. I don't think we're
yeah,
unique or anything, but I think there is like and it comes with pitfalls as well, where like I look at her, so she's like a baby twin of my wife when she was
mhm.
like, if you look at pictures, the only giveaway is like decor in the background, like they're like the same person. And like I think my wife is stunning, so then when I look at Sloan, I'm like, oh, you're so pretty. Oh fuck, what happens when she's like 16 or 17? Or like, oh, and then you start going down that rabbit hole. So yeah, I think there's different challenges of having a girl to having a boy. I think there's kind of a thing of like with a boy where it's like, oh, he's handsome, he's going to break hearts, and then when it's a girl,
Yeah,
it's like, stay the fuck away from everyone with a penis.
yeah.
Yeah, so it is. It's different, but it's fun.
Deal with
Um,
it when you get there, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I guess you want to put them in a position where you don't have to deal with it. You want to get
I
them ready
my
enough that you don't need to
my
worry about it.
my goal is just to help her understand, uh, like, like, hey, like this is the way most guys operate. This is the way that the male brain works, and like,
Yeah,
they're gonna try and tell you differently, and they're probably full of shit. So,
yeah. Except
um,
me, your dad.
yeah,
I'm not
right.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you remember? You say that you're going to document the birth. Can you remember the first time that you wanted to do that? Like, can you remember the first time that you saw something and wanted to take a picture of it, or saw something and wanted to take a video of it?
um, No, so I never had that like moment where I picked up a camera. I was really lost until, mm, I mean, even once I graduated college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do.
What did you do in college?
I studied communications and played football. And so I thought I was going to be a football coach slash teacher, which is a
Okay.
very common thing for people to do. Um, and then I very quickly found out that I didn't enjoy the teaching aspect. And so, yeah, I was talking to my mom one day, and she was like, "Well, what do you love?" And I said, "I love movies, which I've always loved movies." And she goes, "Well, why don't you go to film school and learn how to make movies?" And I was like, "That's a great idea." And at this point, I don't know, maybe probably 24, maybe something like
Yeah.
that. So real late start. Um,
Well, well done
yeah,
her, because like the easy thing is like shut up and get a job. Like,
yeah.
so to tell you to go back to scratches, that's pretty impressive parenting. And was there any of that like were movies and stuff? Was that a big thing in your house, or was it you specifically that just kind of enjoyed it?
It was a big thing in our house, like growing up watching Star Wars and
Hmm.
Indiana Jones. We would get dropped. My brother and I, we would get dropped off at the movie theater. Um, sit there and watch movies. We would movie hop, which I don't know if kids do that anymore, but you pay to watch one movie and then
Yeah,
you stick around as long as you can and just hop around from movie to movie.
that's good.
Yeah, but yeah, just always, and I still love movies. It's one of my favorite things to do, and so getting my son into movies and hopefully my daughter into movies. It's just like, yeah, it's one of those things. Some parents they get their kids into sports, um, and then they grow up and they watch football or
Yeah.
whatever every Sunday, and for me it was movies. Yeah.
Have you shown your son like the original Star Wars movies?
Yep. Yep. We've watched. Man, I think we've seen every Star Wars movie that's come out. And he's also really into Marvel, all the Marvel movies. So we
Oh,
watch
amazing.
we watch all those.
I remember being
Yeah.
really jealous of my father-in-law recently. He started during lockdown watching the Marvel movies. He was like, "Oh, are they any good?" I was like, "Yes." He was like, "Okay, I'll start watching them." And then I every so often I check in. Like he'd watch one every few weeks, or a
Yeah.
couple of months or whatever. Um, it was when there was no sport on. He's big into sport, and there was no sport
Hmm.
on TV, so he's watching these. And I remember talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, what's next? Like chronologically?" Because he was like, "Should I watch them in the order they came out, or in the order that the story goes?" And I was like, "Your choice, really, but I guess the order the story goes, so you can kind of track it." So he's like, "All right, okay." And then I was like, "Oh, what's up next?" And he was like, "Oh, Winter Soldier." And I was like, "Oh, I'm actually so jealous
That's a
that
good
you're
one.
going into this having not seen it and that it's all
Yeah.
fresh." Yeah, no, I think Marvel. I really like Marvel. Um, so if he likes Marvel and all that kind of stuff, what did he make of like Star Wars when he was watching the original Star Wars? Was he like the effects on this are a piece of shit, or did he just accept it and move on?
No. I don't. Yeah, no. He. I think the effects on the original Star Wars stand up pretty well.
Yeah,
They stand up better than a lot of CGI stuff does today. Like
yeah, that's true.
CGI, because the techniques were like it was a lot of models. Um, it looks a little more real. Where CGI it advances so quickly that like after a couple years, it's so much better when you look back on how it was, 3, 4, 5 years ago. You can see with your eye, you're like, man, this looks bad. This looks
Yeah,
fake.
even like straight away, I pictured Harry Potter on his broom, like flying, and it's like you can really tell that he's just like
Yeah,
superimposed onto the sky or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, that's true.
Or like the difference between like Yoda the puppet in the original movies versus an actual CGI Yoda walking around. Like
Mm,
it looks terrible.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah. What have you, do you like the new Star Wars stuff? Do you like Mandalorian and Boba Fett?
Mandalorian was fantastic. Boba Fett was not great. Once
Uh,
it
It,
went,
it was okay until it became Mandalorian season 3. Then it was really good. The last
yeah,
like 2 episodes.
yeah, it was once it got back to Mandalorian, it was great. But
I was just
no,
constantly waiting for something to happen, and then like nothing kept happening. And then the story of like all the background, the flashback stories just basically amounted to nothing. And I was just like, that
yeah,
was so much wasted time. There was whole episodes where it
yeah.
all just ended up being irrelevant and like pointless. Um, but
I
yeah, no,
used to
once Mandalorian came back in, it was good.
I used to give Sean Woodland a hard time because he's a big Boba Fett fan, and I think Boba Fett as a character is. I just don't think there's anything that special about him. And I just don't understand like why people like idolize him when he's a minor character in the movies, and
Mm.
then the way he died in Return of the Jedi, I just thought was so unimpressive. It was
Yeah.
almost like an accidental, like he gets whacked, bounces off this wall, and then falls into the pit. And I'm
Isn't
just like,
that
well,
doesn't it have the scream as well? Isn't he the scream in that one? You know that
yeah, the
like
Wilhelm
in
scream.
joke. Yeah, yeah. Isn't he
Yeah,
that
yeah,
scream in there? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I used to give Woodland a hard time about
Like he looks
Boba Fett.
cool. It's a cool costume. It's a
Oh, he looks
cool like
awesome.
he looks cool, but yeah, he's like essentially irrelevant to
Yeah.
well, I guess he's pretty important with like the clones and stuff, but like other
Right, but
like
that was
in the
something they changed, like,
yeah,
after, yeah.
yeah. Um So you did communications in college and wanted to play like coach football and teach. Decided not to do that. Went back to film school. A lot of people when they do stuff like that, if it tends to go one way or the other. Where I remember I went back and I did like radio and TV production or something in college, and it was shite. It was like a 1 year. I was like, "This is it. Like, this is going to be everything I wanted to be." And then I was just like, "Wow, that was pointless. I'm down
Yeah,
like 2 grand, and it was just not worthwhile at all."
yeah.
I know how to edit, which I can still do now, so I guess I got that out of it. Um, but a lot of people get like disillusioned, where they're like, "Oh, like that's disappointing," or else they're like lapping it up and like love every minute of it. Did you fall into one of those, or were you somewhere in the middle?
Somewhere in the middle, I feel like so mine was a 3 year degree, a 3 year master degree program at the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and we got to shoot on film, 16 millimeter. We got to actually physically like cut film,
Wow.
um, edit tape to tape. So like all these experiences that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And things that nobody does, but it gives you perspective in terms of like what I do now. But the interesting thing was, I had a teacher that, so I never finished the program because I had a teacher who said, if this is what you want to do, just go do it. You don't need to go to school for this. And I was like, all right, well, let me see if I can figure something out. So how I got started in what I'm doing now is I reached out to a guy named Chris Gargano, who had co-taught a sports journalism class at my undergraduate, and I'd heard that he was now the executive producer for the Oakland Raiders broadcasting department. And this
Okay.
was 2005, I think. And I emailed him or called him, I can't remember, and I just said, hey, I don't know if you have any internships or anything like that, but I would love to chat with you about it. And he said, come on in, and we'll talk. And that he gave me my first shot. So that
And
was
that Oakland Raiders are it's a football team, yeah.
yeah. They are now
I
in Las
see,
Vegas.
I know stuff. I've done
Yeah.
my research. Um, okay, so what was the so like what was his role? Was basically was he like documenting their seasons and stuff, or was he like marketing? Like what was his primary
I
function filming them, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's well, at the time we were, this is 2005, so we were creating some web content, but social media wasn't around yet. So
Mm,
primarily what we're doing were TV shows. And in season we did 3 TV shows a week. We did 2 30-minute shows and one 1 hour show on the Raiders. And one was like magazine style, one was interview kind of roundtable discussion, and then the other one was like a mix. So we were creating like a ton of content every week on the team, basically.
is it hard to get like enough stuff to fill? Like, if it's every week and you're doing that much, is it like were there ever weeks where you were like, "Oh God, something needs to happen. We need someone to get injured, or we need something like exciting to happen."
Now, because like regardless of how the team does or what's happening, like you still have to create content. And there's a lot of avenues to do that. So you could have like an athlete profile where we get a bunch of interviews at training camp. And we have like 20 athlete profiles that we need to cut. You do a profile on one of the cheerleaders. You have like a coach's corner where they break down something, highlights. Then we would shoot like BTS on, say a player goes to a grocery store and buys groceries for people or something. We would cover
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So like literally, it's an endless supply of things to cover. It's just a matter of actually, capturing the content and then turning it around and packaging it. So
So you had an internship there, and did you end up working for them then, like a job with them?
yeah, essentially, I was never like a full time employee, but I worked full time for I guess a couple more years after that. Um, Before getting a job with the Golden State Warriors. So I think from '05 to like 2007, 2008, yeah, I was basically working because when I was an intern, I I would I would work there like 8 to 10 hours a day, like during the day, and then I would go to a second job and work a 6 hour shift after that. That actually paid me like money.
What was the
Um,
second job in?
it was a I was a personal attendant to a young man who had a spinal muscular dystrophy, and so he needed 24-hour around the clock care. Um,
Okay.
and so yeah, I would go work a 6 hour shift where, and he was a college student, so basically you hang out with him, you help take care of him, feed him, um,
What's that
literally
movie?
just
What's that movie with the? It's a French movie, and then they did it. Bryan Cranston did it with Kevin Hart.
yeah, I
Fuck.
can't remember what it's called. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, so that was basically your life for
Yeah, yeah, it
your
was.
after your internship.
Yeah,
Um, so Raiders are football, Golden State Warriors are basketball.
yeah.
Um, so that like obviously there's a lot of similarities there. You're covering like you've still got is there cheerleaders in basketball? Yeah, there is, isn't there? So you've still got like
Depends on the
players.
team.
Say again.
I think it depends on the team. Like some of they
Okay.
don't have cheerleaders; they have like dance teams, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So they dance but don't cheer. So, so you've got still got players, you've still got like, I assume similar styles of content. You still got like the behind the scenes stuff. You still got like roundtables. You've still got managers. You've still got like that kind of stuff. But they're two very different sports though. So
Yeah.
did you like when you swapped over, were you like relearning all that kind of stuff? Or had you an interest in basketball going in and you were kind of like, I'll be fine with this and just took off where you left off with the Raiders?
Um, yeah, there was no learning curve. Like I'd played basketball as a kid, understood the sport. Um, but what I did there was actually very different. Well, not very different, but when you go to a basketball game, um, there's what they call like the in arena show, and so when basketball's not happening, there's the whole thing's like mapped out, planned out, timed out, and so there's a director, there's cameras, and so they do live events, but they also roll a lot of packages and stuff in game, hype videos, entertainment, and so that's what I did is I created stuff for the in-game show basically.
So
Um,
are they in my terms, are they kind of like the cutaway bits in games coverage or cutaway bits in like open announcements where it goes to some like little 30-second clip or minute clip,
mhm.
that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Okay. Well that was pretty handy experience to garner. So how long were you there for?
I was there for about a year and a half, and the same guy, Chris Gargano, who was my boss at the Raiders, took a job with the San Francisco Giants. What sport is that?
Football?
Baseball.
Fuck. Fuck
And
it. I knew it wasn't football and I said it anyway. Fuck it.
um,
Okay, wow, okay. And then he head on to you back for like to join him?
yeah, so he said he called me and he said, "Hey, we want to do a documentary style TV show along the lines of Hard Knocks or 24/7, which were at the time like really high level, probably the highest level documentary TV shows out, done
Yeah.
by HBO." And he said, "Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So that was 2009. I went to work for the Giants.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
so a third sport.
yeah,
Um, okay. And a very different job again then. Like as in you're obviously there's still similarities, you're still recording, there's still editing, there's still like people or whatever, but you've gone from roundtables and interviews and stuff to cutaways and like hype videos to like a season documentary. So like that's you're obviously you're earning a lot of skills and you're like learning a lot of new things and expressing yourself differently, but like it must be challenging to be like, okay, I'm just going to start something totally different and in a different environment.
yeah. But having Chris there, someone I knew and I trusted, um, definitely made me feel more comfortable about it. Um, it took us a while. It took us a while to build it up to what it is now. Like, because I don't think at the time anyone was doing what they wanted to do in the pro sports, like within the sports team, like basically an in-house high level video production team.
Mm.
And yeah, we built it up into like a pretty successful, I would say, a model that I think a lot of teams have emulated basically.
Yeah, like straight away I'm thinking of like the All or Nothing series is, like the Man City. Have you watched any of those?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're kind of. I only like see. I only the only sport I like outside of CrossFit is football, like soccer.
Yeah.
Um, so I've watched like the Man City one, and I watched another one as well. It's probably not great if I can't remember who it was. Tottenham. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, it's enjoyable. Like it's like I like seeing same as CrossFit. I like seeing the
Yeah.
behind the scene or like Drive to Survive is probably the pinnacle of like behind the
Yeah.
scenes kind of stuff. But then you hear a lot of stuff about like that it's all contrived and like that there's
Yeah.
rivalries that are made rivalries that aren't really rivalries and
Yeah.
like stuff like that. That kind of ruins it a bit. But no, I think behind the scenes there's something special about it. It just adds to your enjoyment of the sport and it adds to your engagement with the sport and the team or the person or whatever when like even we'll get onto it later on, but even the Miles Madison stuff where you're hearing people talk that you don't normally hear talk outside of really
Mhm.
forced situations where they're standing after on the field and have a mic in their face and they're like
Mhm.
and they can see themselves on a big screen and they're like hugely self-conscious and they're like, oh God, I'm my heart is pounding already from the workout and now I
Yeah.
have to think of something smart to say. Whereas if you're just having a casual conversation over the course of a weekend, you get a lot more of a sense of what they're like, I suppose.
Yeah.
At what point did CrossFit like kind of were you doing CrossFit yourself and then that's how it happened, or was it the opposite?
Kind of. So in 2011, um, I'd I had slowly over the years put on more and more and more weight. And in 2011, I was like, man, I got to make a change. And had seen the games on TV. Actually, spent a year um, talking myself in and out of even trying CrossFit because at the time I was like, I can't do pull ups, I can't do like 100 push ups, and so I was like, I can't do this. Um, but eventually, I just walked into a local box and started doing it, and I loved it, and I wouldn't shut up about it like most people. And so all my coworkers at the Giants knew that I did CrossFit. And one day, someone said, "Hey, the head of CrossFit media is coming through for a tour today of the ballpark. You should say hi." And I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And so at the time, I guess this was 2012 or I think it was 2012, and it was Tony Budding. Um, and so I met him, talked to him a little bit, exchanged information, followed up with a friendly, nice to meet you email. And then maybe 6 months later, I got a call from Roy McKernan, and he said, hey, we have some local um, regional athletes that we need profiles done on. Are you interested in doing any of that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I knew it was kind of a tryout.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I did one, and it went really well, and they offered me a full time job working for CrossFit, so I took it.
So you were employed by them then, or were you
Yes,
contracted by them?
no, I was full time for 2 years, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
um and so when you get a job like that, when they tell you they need a profile in this person, do they give you any input, or did you just say like they work out at this gym? Like, or do they say
Nah.
like this is what we're after, here's a similar thing that came out last year that we're looking at, or is it just all on you?
Um, it's hard to remember back then, but I'm pretty sure it was all on me. And I did the whole thing. I did it all by myself. I shot it, produced it, edited it. And yeah, it was a cool piece. It was on a guy who was also a law enforcement and a member of like his SWAT team in his city, and so we just got really good access to him training for that stuff. And
Yeah.
it was right after the Boston Marathon
Oh yeah.
bombing, and so they were doing training because I guess that guy was like they were looking for him, and it was open field. Like the way that they were searching for him, so they were trying to replicate the way that they were trying to find this guy. And so it was like out in these open fields and breaking off into groups and communicating and like, swarming towards a certain position. And Yeah, it was just one of those pieces where it was like, oh man, this, he's a really good athlete, but like it's the other stuff is more interesting. So it was about a little bit about his job, what he does, how they train, a little bit about, family and, what motivates him and stuff. And I mean,
Yeah.
so visually it was interesting. Um,
And do
but
you like, because obviously you have to tell a story there, and like I'm assuming like with the other jobs that you've had, and then now just the length of time you've had doing the stuff that you're doing, you're pretty confident if I gave you a subject and said go and tell that story, you'd just be like, okay, I'll find something interesting and tell the story. But then when you were doing that, was there ever a point of like, fuck, I hope this is what they want, like I hope this is what they meant, or am I getting lost in the weeds here? Am I focusing too much on his job? Should I be focusing more on training, or am I focusing too much on his training? Is the job more interesting? Like, was there ever any kind of doubt like that?
I don't remember there being any doubt on that one. And what's interesting with CrossFit is like they give feedback, but in terms of creative freedom, they're pretty like I've never had as much creative freedom as I have with CrossFit. So
Yeah.
oftentimes it'll be like, hey, yeah, go do a feature on this guy who's lost a bunch of weight, and it's like, all right. And so I got to figure out what the story is and then how I want to tell the story. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Usually the feedback will come in anything pertaining to like language specifically with like methodology or something like that,
Oh yeah. Okay.
but very rarely are they like, all right, we want to talk about this, we want to talk about this, we want to talk about this, they're never like, because my thing is like, I always try the way I view CrossFit content personally is if it's brand marketing, which is what it is, and you're selling CrossFit, um, the people who are already buying, who've already bought in, who are going to an affiliate, those aren't the people you're trying to reach. You're trying to reach people who aren't doing CrossFit and get them
Yeah.
motivated to go try it. So just harping on CrossFit is not the most effective way. The most effective way to connect with people is through like the human element, the human story, and that's something that like anybody can create to, right? And you create empathy, and you can put yourself in that person's shoes and be like, oh, okay, I can relate to that. And then you go, hey, if it worked for them, maybe it'll work for me,
Mm.
type of thing. And same thing with the games athletes. Like it's like I mean, me personally, like I know a lot of people like to see them working out and all that stuff. I don't care about any of that stuff because they're all really, really fit. They're all really good at CrossFit. Like that's a given. It's like, well, what else is interesting about these people?
Yeah.
And what is going to connect like the average person? Like if we want to grow the sport, not everyone that watches, Man U is what is necessarily like a soccer player or a standout
Yeah.
soccer player, right? It's like um, if you want to grow the sport, you're going to have to bring people into the fold who aren't hardcore CrossFitters, and the way you do that is through the human empathy storytelling. Um, and so, it's like, what is it about Daniel Brandon that the average person can relate to? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
Mal O'Brien or Justin Medeiros,
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Like I think, like I've had a lot of like top 5, 10 athletes on, and like regardless of how fit the person is or how successful they are in the sport, like once you have someone who like lets their guard down a little bit and tells like a different story or something new or something they haven't said before or whatever, that's where you're like, oh, like I really like this person. Like where because like that you can just buy in and you can be like, I get scared sometimes too, or I sometimes feel out of place, or I sometimes feel nervous, or I sometimes feel like overconfident and fuck something up or whatever. And I think like
Mhm.
like because otherwise they're just unattainable. Like if
Yeah.
you look at what Tia does, you're like, well, I'm literally never going to be able to be even close to that. But when you see her, or I'm never going to be as good a coach as Shane. Like, not a chance I'd be able to do that. But then you see him getting emotional when his wife is doing well, and you're like, "Oh, I do that." Do you know, like, and it's that
Mhm.
kind of like, I don't know, like, it just builds a bridge that otherwise there's a
Yeah.
chasm. Like, there's a
Yep.
chasm between you and them, but then you'd have those little moments where you're like, oh, look, there's actually a little footbridge here, and I understand more about them. Um, okay, y- uh, do you know how many Emmys you've won?
Yeah. I've won 10, and I haven't won them. Like, it's always been a part of a team or a group, right? So it's not just me out there um, doing it. I just want to be
You're
very
you're
clear
n-
about it.
you're yeah, because you won the Emmy though. Like, you're like, regardless of if it's on your own or on the team, you still are an
Yeah,
Emmy victor. Yeah.
yeah.
And were they all for the three jobs that previous, like, say, or like, what did you get those for?
Yeah, most of them are for like the documentary style TV shows that we did with the Giants and the Warriors. Um, oh, because I left when I left CrossFit after 2 years, I went back to work for the Warriors,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and so we basically recreated what we had at the Giants at the Warriors.
Okay.
Um, and so some of them are for entire shows, some of them are for just like individual features. Um, I don't know if I think we would sometimes submit commercials, but most of them are for like kind of docu style type stuff.
Who picks, like, who is that voted for by your peers, or is it a board, or how does that work?
It's it'll be so like it's they're not national Emmys, and this is one of the reasons I rarely like talk about them. So there's regional Emmys, and so these ones are Northern California, and then so another region will vote, and
Okay,
so
okay.
they'll watch all the submissions and like because we could do the same thing for other regions. Like you can be a judge and you go through and watch all the submissions, and then
It's basically like CrossFit. It's basically like there's regions. You can get to regionals. You can watch other people's video submissions and declare them good or bad. Yeah, it's like there's a
yeah,
lot of similarities there. So you left. You were at CrossFit. You were like full time at CrossFit for 2 years, and then so that would have been 2014 when you left. Then would it? 2013.
yeah, because I was with the Warriors for the 2014-15 season, the first year that they won
And was
their
that
champ.
because an opportunity with the Warriors came up, or how come you
Yes.
left?
So another guy that I worked with at the Giants, his name's Paul Hodges. He went to the Warriors and started running their media team, and basically called me up and said, "Hey, we want to start doing what we were doing at the Giants over
Hmm.
here. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, absolutely." He made me like a really good offer, and um, at the time, the Warriors hadn't won a championship in 40 years, so it wasn't like I was going to the team because they were really, really good like they are now. Um,
Yeah.
it was
Were
just a
you
good
were you
opportunity.
Are you saying you were the catalyst?
Well, that's the running joke a lot of people say because when I worked for the Giants, they hadn't won a championship in 53 years, and then after a year being there, they won one. They ended up winning three in 5 years, but they won in 2010, 2012 while I was there, and then they won again in 2014. Um,
But that was
and then
obviously just a hangover of when you were there. That's like
yeah,
it wasn't like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
residual effect.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You like your aura is still knocking around.
yeah,
Um, and then how did you end up going back to CrossFit then? Are you so did, so there's no media team now, is that correct? The CrossFit.
yeah.
So
Not internally.
yeah, everyone that I'd consider CrossFit media, they're like contracted in. So like you, Dalton,
Hmm.
like everyone, you're all
Yeah.
contracted in. Um, so is that how you went back then?
Um, Essentially, yeah. I came back as a contractor, and what happened was I was looking for a little more flexibility in terms of work schedule and stuff. And I hit up Savan at the time. He was head of media, and we had lunch. And I explained to him, I said, I'm thinking about going into business for myself, but I don't have any work lined up, and then I'd have to buy like camera gear and all this stuff that I didn't own.
Hmm.
And he said, "You can do as much or as little work for us as you want." And I said, I was like, "Oh, amazing, thank you." And that gave me the confidence to, I don't know, spend like 25 grand on my credit card, um, to buy all the equipment that I would need to get going, knowing that I would have work through CrossFit. So,
Yeah. What was he like as a boss?
um, Savan was there. I had no issues with Savan. He was awesome. He pretty low key. He kind of, did his own thing. He was with Greg a lot, and then he would shoot, his own behind the scenes projects and stuff. I would say, a lot of autonomy.
Yeah.
For us to do what we needed to do. I mean, this was in the the golden years when money was no issue. Like, so it was like, I mean, if you had a good idea and you pitched it well, they'd be like, "Yeah, do it, make it happen."
Did you work on any of the non-games films, like on like Froning or any of those?
I didn't work on the edit for the Froning, but I did shoot stuff for it. But that was a Hebrew project. Um, I think I've shot for almost all of those documentaries because I even after I left CrossFit, I still would come out to the games and help cover the
Hmm.
games.
Is
Um,
it is it hard shooting something and then handing it over to someone else and not knowing what's going to be done with it, or if it's going to be used or it's thrown on the floor or whatever?
mm, no, not when you work with people that like you trust and respect. Um, but like when you look at the games, well, because the Froning thing was like we were shooting for just like a lot of the stuff. It was just shooting with Froning during the season, or and then it was
Hmm.
like, okay, we can use some of that for the documentary. But no, when you work with people that you respect and you trust, it's like, and especially with the games, it's like you're just a cog in the wheel. So like everyone has a role to play. You do the best you can, and then you just let go. It's just that's. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Did you work at the 18 games?
I think 18 was the one year I did not work that one.
So how did you find out that like you were all gone, like that everything was
Uh,
over?
so for years I was essentially working for Tyson Oldroyd, and he was having me create affiliate content. So I would go out and do stories on. Basically, he'd be like, "Oh, there's a female monster truck driver that does CrossFit. Go do something on her." And be like, "Oh, there's Brooks Like, he's a professional hockey player who's doing CrossFit. Go do a story on him." Um, so I would do those stories, and then I think it was the last piece I did before they cut everyone loose was it was called the day Fat Justin died, and it was a great piece about a guy named Justin who had gotten in a car accident. He was really overweight, led to him losing a bunch of weight. Now he owns his own affiliate, and he's a coach. He's a great guy. And Tyson was like, "Hey man, like I need you to like finish this ASAP." This was maybe like towards the end of the year. And I was like, and they never rushed me. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, I'm working on it. He goes, yeah. He's like, there's just some stuff's happening. And like, I just want to make sure that we get this done and you get paid and stuff. And I was like, okay. And that's when I was like, man, what's something weird is happening. And yeah, sure enough, I think within a few months after that, everyone got let go. So all the media team got let go, and then all contractors were essentially no longer being used. And the plan, I guess, moving forward was to let other content creators in the world create content for CrossFit.
Yeah. Trying to think of an
So
adjective to, like like questionable. It's like,
I mean,
questionable logic is the first thing. Because especially when you hear stories about that, when you hear stories that like, because I think, okay, the way I look at it is you've got the games content. So you've got like say the documentaries, you've got like the say the Miles to Madison style.
mhm.
What would you call that? Like I guess like semi magazine, like semi document. I don't
Yeah,
know how you describe it.
docu series.
Yeah, and then you've got like say the one offs, like your one with Adam, and like those kind of ones.
Yeah,
But like the affiliate stuff, like the videos, like when they're done well, and when they like that's especially in America, it's not. I don't think it's as potent this side of the water, but especially in America, I get the impression that like a good one of those does an affiliate's job for 6 to 12 months, where it's like they don't need to advertise, they don't need to, they can just share that video and they can
yeah,
just have the members share it and like show their friend, show their brother, or whatever. So then when that stops, and that's going to be the last thing that comes back, because like the games is like that's like the big show, that's the glitz and glamour. So like that's going to be the first thing where they're like, okay, well let's start, this back up. Like when the machine kicks back into gear, like that's going to be the first thing that starts rolling, and I feel like the affiliates are going to be left kind of like trying at the end, like like the crumbs off the table kind of thing. Do you think
yeah,
is that accurate? Do you think?
yeah. I think so. And it was sad because at that point, I would say from like 2016 until mm, I guess maybe like last year, I wasn't doing a lot of games coverage. I was doing a lot of affiliate storytelling, which was
Mm.
incredibly rewarding for me. And that's something that Tyson himself had always put a huge emphasis on because he used to own an affiliate. And there's a lot of people that work for CrossFit that all they care about is like helping people and getting people into CrossFit and helping change lives. And that's what that content was doing, right? The whole point is you watch a 20-minute piece about someone and then they say, and it gives them the courage or the motivation to walk into a CrossFit gym and change their lives,
Mm.
even if it's one person. And I know it was, it would be more than that. But just telling stories um, and helping to motivate people. And I think losing that content, and even with um, like I don't think they're doing that type of content right now. And I hope we get back to that because the affiliates are important. And the games used to be a big commercial, right? Like that's how I found CrossFit. A lot of
Yeah,
people
yeah.
would say, "Oh, I saw this on TV," and I was like, "Oh man, I want to do that." But for a lot of people, the games is it's terrifying. They see that and they're like, "I could never do that." And
But
so
even look at you,
now,
it took you a year when you saw it to pick up the
yeah,
courage to go into a gym because you're like, I can't do
oh
any of
yeah,
that. Whereas if you had seen one of your own like stories of
yeah,
like just some random guy, who was in a similar position to you and who made changes, you'd probably be
yeah,
a lot more like, oh, okay, so anyone can do it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think there's probably like I'm sure analytically, if you went back and you tracked the rise in content creation from CrossFit and the rise of CrossFit itself or the growth of it, I think there's a direct correlation. Um, and you could probably argue that once that stopped, there was probably a drop off in growth for sure. But now it's like with the games, like we have to say, um, this is CrossFit, but it's not CrossFit. Like this is almost its own monster,
Yeah, yeah.
and this isn't what you know what I mean. Like, yeah, you can get into it and try to be competitive. Good luck, um, but most of the what CrossFit is and most of what people do is nothing like what you're seeing on at the games. And
Yeah,
so I
like
think,
the games is like Formula One driving, and then the rest
yeah,
of us are like quite good at parallel parking. Like that's
yeah,
the it's a similar mechanism, but it's very different skills
we're
and
we're in bumper cars, just bumping into the wall, basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's how I feel. But
yeah.
yeah, no, it's I don't know. And with the the new leadership and ownership of the company, it seems like they're still trying to figure things out, and
Mm,
figure out what direction they want to go. But at some point, they're going to have to start creating content for affiliates again, for sure.
yeah. Um. So when you're telling a story and you're being creative and you've found your vein of the story that you're going to follow, or the type of story that you're going to follow, is there ever a balance between, like, say, being creative and telling the story that you want to tell and then pleasing other people, and, like, I guess you want to show your story to, say, Savan when you're doing it with him, or Tyson when you're doing it with him, or whoever, and you want them to be like, yeah, that's really good, like, because then that's affirmation or whatever, or you know but then you also want, like, the masses to like it and engage with it. And so
Mhm.
is it ever difficult to balance, like, you knowing something is a good story versus, oh, are people going to get this?
Um, no, I don't think I've ever had to deal with that. What I would try to do is, at least years ago, is I would try to work in, if I could, if it made sense, stuff from like the level one. So maybe like, I think I did a piece on Nunu Costa, who I'm not sure if he's on the level one staff anymore, but great coach, great athlete, um, and he's clean and sober. And so, if I remember correctly, I tried to tie in the what is it called, the wellness sickness
Oh
continuum,
yeah.
um, and just and so that's directly out of like the level one handbook. Something you would learn. Have you done level one?
Not yet.
Yeah, you should do. It's pretty intense. Ton of information, but it's fantastic. But when I worked for CrossFit, they were like, "You need to go do your level one." I'm like, "Well, I'm not coaching," and they're like, "Go do your level one." And I was like, "All right." So I did it, and it was great. I liked it a lot. But yeah, I would try to work stuff like that um, into storytelling if I could. So it's like you're getting a little bit of it, and I knew stuff like that would appease higher ups. They'd see that and be
Mm.
like, okay, cool, this is like working a little bit of our messaging, if you will.
Yeah.
But I never like would like try to beat a dead horse or anything with, in terms of like, CrossFit is good for you, you should do CrossFit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people are a lot smarter than people are given credit for. And I think when you um, do stuff like that, people, it can be offensive, right? It can be a turn off. And so I think just being honest and truthful with the storytelling, um, will go a lot further.
Mm.
And
Um,
yeah,
Speaking of storytelling, so the most recent piece of work I saw from you was your Justin Medeiros' coach,
yeah.
Adam Neiford piece, uh, which is just brilliant. Like, I've had him on the show, and he's a cool guy. Like,
Oh, he's the
fucking hell,
best.
I'd say he's impossible to be grumpy around. Like, he just like
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think it's actually feasible. Um, but so you sent me that. You sent me that to watch, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" Like, you were like, "Don't share
yeah,
this with anyone. You can, like, the link is good for however long.
yeah,
Let me know what you think." And I was like, "Oh my god, this is so exciting! I'm going to get to see something." I felt like I was at a premiere. I was like, "This is
yeah.
amazing," and then I forgot about it, and I forgot about it until it came out. I totally forgot about it.
Oh,
Um, and then I remember messaging you being like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch this now," and you were like, "I was like, I think the link is expired," and you were like, "No, it's just out now. You can just
yeah.
watch it wherever." Um, but like, really fucking good, like, really, just really enjoyable. Like, I knew I was gonna like it because I like him,
Yeah,
but it was, so the things, like, there was a real, like, smack of 70s off it, which I loved. Like, the kind of, the there's like a grainy thing with the credits, and it just, the colors were kind of 70s ish, and
yeah,
it was like the start of like a 70s cop, like, buddy movie or something, which I
Yeah,
really liked. And like when you're doing that kind of thing, that's obviously very different from an affiliate. Obviously, you're telling a story, like so.
yeah,
There is similarities. There's always going to be similarities, but like you're like with him, you're kind of preaching to the converted, I guess. Like when you're telling the story of the affiliate, as you mentioned, you're talking to people who don't want to hear the kind of cult stuff of like CrossFit, CrossFit,
yeah,
CrossFit, because it's going to put them off.
right,
Um, but when you're talking about one of the most successful coaches or one of the most successful affiliate owners or team athletes and everything in the sport and in like he's the bridge between what we talked about, where you have the sport that's its own monster and then you got the affiliate, which is totally different.
mhm,
So you are kind of preaching to the converted when you're doing a piece about him to a large extent anyway.
yeah.
um it like, does that come with more pressure? Does it come like, is it a different kind of challenge, do you think?
No, but with that one, I did have more direction, and so at the time, there's I forget what it's called, like Coach's Corner, or there's an email that goes out to like if you've done your level one, you get these emails now where there's like articles and videos and so they wanted to start doing profiles on people, and so I'd done one on Annie Sakamoto, and then um, Adam was the second one, and um, the goal was to tell their story, but then also to get a good chunk of like their approach to coaching and like
Yeah.
maybe and so yeah, in that sense, that content I think was for affiliates and affiliate owners and coaches. So with Adam, it's like probably one of the most successful affiliates in the world. And it's like, okay, well, how did he do that? Like, what's the secret? And it's crazy.
Mm.
Like his coach, like how positive he is. His entire gym has that vibe. His coaches have the same mentality. The athletes there are just like super nice. Everyone's happy to be there. Nobody's complaining. It's just like the most positive, enjoyable environment. Um, so it's like stuff like that. It's like I want to try and get that across. But not it wasn't only challenging in the sense that it's like, okay, I gotta fill these buckets. Like I'm being told like, all right, coaching is a big
Mm.
thing, and then story is a big thing, and then Justin is not a big thing, right? Like
Mm.
Justin is not the focus of this piece. But I felt like I couldn't tell the story of Adam without at least mentioning Justin. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
let me open with Justin, set up that relationship, and then move on from that. Because it's
And
really, yeah,
how did you pick the kind of style, like because if there is like a hum of 70s off it, how did you land on
yeah.
that?
I think I kind of established that in the Annie
Annie, yeah.
Sakamoto piece, and my idea was, if this was going to be a series, was to kind of have them all have the same formula and feel.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I ended up switching over to games coverage not too long after that, and so I haven't done any more of those. But yeah, at the time, I was probably inspired by something I saw. That's usually like I I don't like people talk about being original or whatever. Oftentimes, it's like, oh, I see something, I want to try and recreate that, or I want to
Mm.
tweak it for my own use. They say originality is the product of a bad memory. Have you ever heard that? Yeah.
That's good.
Like there's nothing original left in the world, right? It's like you can watch a Tarantino movie and be like, man, this is the most original thing I've ever seen. If you've never seen the 75 movies
Yeah.
that he's been influenced by, that he's directly referencing in his movies, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Same, Star Wars, right, has like a, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of inspirations, but like um, samurai, like the Kurosawa samurai movies have a huge effect on the way Darth Vader looks,
Mm.
the sword fights and stuff like that. So yeah, it's only original if you have forgotten where you saw something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Or if you just don't know where. where it's been ripped off from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, like I did. So this is a much lesser creative realm, but I did a picture of Brian Friend, and I edited. I got like, and only talking to you now, I'm like, oh my god, that's where that came from.
Yeah.
So it's like I got really hung up on 70s, like
Hmm.
really like like that brown and orange and like like that. I just got really hung up on it, and I did a
Yeah.
picture of him with like like the like he's coming out of the like I can't like a book, like there's different
Yeah.
the same picture of him over and over again, but it looks like and then his name. Um and I put it on Instagram, and now literally as you're talking, I was like, oh, that's where I got that 70s thing. Was obviously like a couple of months before. It was just stuck in my head. And then I did a thing, I did a series about all the Irish qualifiers for the semi-finals. And probably because of the 70s thing, I was like, 60s is probably cool. So I started like Google imaging like 60s posters and 60, and then got really hung up on that. And now I'm like, oh, I'm kind of thinking I might do like a summary version of the logo just for my own like creative outlet or whatever. And I've gone like deep into like 90s Miami. Like, yeah, it's funny how yeah, you're kind of influenced without thinking that you are. It's sort of like random shit just pops in your head, and then you just go
Yeah.
down a rabbit hole, but it's like really fun. Um, so you were heavily involved in the 2021.
Yeah. Real quick, can I
Sorry,
use the bath? Can I use the bathroom?
of course you can.
Okay.
Of course you can.
All right. I'm scared to take these out.
Well, I don't
If
want to
I,
hear you.
yeah, I know. Can I mute? Wait,
I'd say just
can
take
you
them
hear
out.
me
It'll be
now?
fine. Yeah,
Damn it. I know how to mute
I'd
on
say I'd say
my.
just take them out. I'm sure it'll be fine.
All
Wouldn't
right.
you?
All right. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Now, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Whew, that was a close one. Um, yeah, it's funny you were saying you didn't want to hear me going to the bathroom because when you mic people up and they're wearing a lav mic for a extended period of time, you almost always are going to hear someone go into the bathroom. So,
Like what's that? Oh, what's that documentary that was on HBO? Not Jerk. What the fuck was it? Oh my god. He goes to the bathroom and outs himself as a murderer. Like he's mic'd up, and he goes to the bathroom, and he's like talking to himself in the mirror, calling
oh,
himself a piece of shit.
wow.
Oh my
I don't
god.
think I've seen that.
Oh no, you have. It's so famous. He's a really famous American. Oh my fucking god. What is it? I think he died recently in prison. He went to prison because of the documentary, like HBO doc murder uh bathroom like Robert Durst.
Albert Hurst or
Robert Durst.
Durst? I don't
The
know. I
Jinx.
don't know.
Oh man, go and watch The
I don't. I've
Jinx.
never seen. Okay.
I think it's
Hey.
on. Oh, is it on Netflix? Maybe it's not on Netflix. It was a HBO. So he. Oh, I've actually ruined it for you by telling you that. Oh, he basically just outs himself.
Yeah.
The whole documentary is about how he's innocent, and how he's like this crazy story has been made up about him, and it's like you don't know the whole way through. You're like, I honestly don't know what is true and what's not true.
Wow.
And then he goes to the bathroom, and he's like talking to himself in the mirror, but he's mic'd up, and he's like, "You killed them all, you piece of shit," and like
Wow.
outs himself as a murderer, and then goes to prison because the documentary crew are like, oh, they're all listening, like they're like this with their
Yeah.
headphones on, being like, "Can you hear this?" And then
Oh.
they like just give the footage to the police or whatever, and the police like
Wow.
show him the footage, and then he just goes, "Yeah, okay, I did it." Um,
Wow.
really fucked up. Um,
Jeez.
I'll just show you this. That's the picture. I don't know if you'll be able to see it properly.
Huh.
That's the kind of 70s thing I went
Oh
for.
yeah, yeah. That's
Kind of
cool.
you can't really see it on that. And then uh that's like the 60s kind of vibe then I went for with the
Oh
uh
yeah. Yeah, I
so
like
yeah,
this. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I've been seeing a lot of that.
yeah,
Hey,
I
do you
don't
have a
know.
pair of those rad shoes?
Yes.
How are they?
They're absolutely fucking amazing. And I'm always conscious. I'm like, oh, like, I mean, this sponsor the show. If I tell people they're amazing, are people just going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, obviously you're going to fucking say that. But like, so I used to love nanos, like nano
Yeah.
sevens, obsessed. I still have a pair of nanos, and I've gone through all the others, and I'll still go back to the nano sevens.
Yeah.
Um, but if I wore my nanos to work and then went to the gym and then went for like a walk, my dogs would be barking. I'd be like,
Yeah.
get these fuckers off me. Like my feet are sore, my feet are tired. The only time I've taken these off is going to bed. So I wear them on the couch. I wear them going for a walk, going to the gym, going to work, whatever. And I never ever feel the urge to be like, oh my God, I need to take my shoes off. And I
Yeah.
always did. I had Innovates most recently and Nanos before them. And I always ended up being like, oh, I'll get these fuckers off. Whereas with the Rads, never an issue.
Hmm.
I've worn them like double unders, squats, strength training, running. Like I wouldn't do like 5K in them, but
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, so that just end badly. But like little 600-meter loops or whatever, wall balls,
Yeah.
like thrusters, never an issue with that. They're genuinely really good, and I'm very wary of talking about them too much because I don't want people to be like, "Are you being paid to say that, or
Right.
are you only saying that because you didn't pay for them, or whatever?" But
Yeah.
like, genuinely, they are fucking legit. They're really good. I've had Nobles as well, and
Yeah.
these are just by far the most comfortable. Like, I'm going traveling to. I'm going to like lowlands, and I'm going to strength and depth,
Yeah.
and I know I'll put them on when I leave my house, and I know I won't have any urge to take them off until I'm getting into bed each night. And like at those events, you're walking around nonstop. But I know I'll never be like, oh my God, my feet, I need to sit down or whatever, because they're so comfortable. Like they're crazy
Yeah.
comfortable. Um, yeah. Are you going to any of the semifinals now?
Nope.
Our
No.
side.
Yeah. No semis this year because
Oh,
the
sure, you
baby.
have the fucking baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. It's like, see you, honey. I'm going to
Yeah.
syndicate. Yeah, okay. Is your, say, in-person work finished now for till are you like on like paternity leave essentially?
Um. I will. I will be on paternity leave, but I am currently doing more like producing.
Yeah.
So we are. So we were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to cover the semis? Who are we going to send to semis? What athletes are we covering? And then I'm also kind of producing the shows for the next two shows on the quarters. Um, so we have one show that'll be individual quarters and one show that'll be team quarters.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I'm working from home essentially. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like peak COVID again. um yeah. I know something else you're working on, but I don't think we're allowed to talk about that. So
Oh yeah.
I won't go into that. I just wanted everyone to know that I know something. Uh, so the 2021 documentary, then, you were heavily involved in that. It seemed like a shit ton of fun, and it seemed like it was just a really good group from the outside looking in. Um, After that, are you involved? Like, because I know it's being edited now. Are you involved in anything after? Or is that a case of like recording the footage and handing it over?
Um, a little bit of both. So Mariah Moore, who's the director of the documentary, she had me post games go shoot with Boz. So Boz's sit down interview, and I think Haley Adams as well. Because usually we get those interviews the Monday after the games, but we didn't get those two. Um, and so I flew out to, went to Cookville, did her interview, and then connected with Boz in Nashville. And then I also did some editing on it. She needed, man, it's hard for me to remember now, even at this point, something with Annie, like a little vignette kind of piece that I'm assuming is in there about Annie, and then I think something about not Justin, but like all the like the what the I don't know what you call them, like the next class or whatever, right? Like the
Oh
up and
yeah, yeah.
comers. So she'll be like, send me a bunch of interviews and B-roll and stuff, and be like, "Hey, I need a piece cut on this topic or whatever," and then just go through and cut it, and then like, "Hey, here's what I did," and then she'll tweak it, and she has a place in the documentary where she was looking to drop that in. So I haven't actually even seen it yet, and I think she's done,
Yeah.
because it's supposed to come out in July.
Probably weren't supposed to say that.
Well,
I know the last time I asked someone about the 2018 documentary and they told me when it was supposed to come out, and then they emailed me saying, take that bit out.
okay, maybe, yeah, maybe we don't use it. Like, maybe you can bleep it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Beep.
supposed to come out in, and I'll just edit over saying 2022 over.
Yeah. Well,
Is it a nice pat on the back getting, like, do you feel good when someone sends you something and says, I need a piece on this and just trust you to go do it?
yeah, I would say it feels good.
Like, rather
What
than being
for?
like, I need this and I need it to sound like this and I want it to look like this and I want it to them to talk about, when you're given more freedom, it
Yeah.
must be because you wouldn't, if you weren't good at it, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get that job, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, she gave me direction, right? She was like, "I want this is what I want to hit on or whatever," and it's like, okay. She gave me enough direction to where I was like, I felt comfortable
Yeah.
attacking it. But then what feels really good is when you send it or when you give it back, and she's like, "This is exactly what I wanted." And you're like,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we've worked together, like, I don't know, a bunch over the years, and it's been really awesome to see her like come up from a production assistant into like director of these
Mm,
documentaries.
mm,
Yeah, it's been really a joy, a joy to watch, and then getting to work with her, you know, that feels good. It's like she's like, "Hey, like, can you help me out on this?" It's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So yeah, it's just like everyone in the community is like, the content creators are just awesome people. Like, I really, and that's one of the reasons why I continue to work in this. Um, I don't know what you call it, area or whatever, the CrossFit world is. I love the people that I work with, but I also love the athletes and the coaches. Like, you begin to develop relationships to where um, it's more than just like a work relationship. So
mm.
like if I go shoot with like Justin Kotler and the underdogs, when we're done shooting at the end of the day, and I'm there by myself, he'll be like, "Hey, why don't you like come over for dinner? Like, everyone's gonna come over for dinner. Why don't you come over and hang out?" It's like, "Oh, cool. Like, all right, that'd be awesome." And you don't really get that in any other sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's something I always like to see. So one of the there's two things that you do that I like um for following you on Instagram and stuff. So one is you put up like pictures that you've taken while working. So you might be videoing something, but you'll take a picture as well. And
Hmm.
they're always like really good pictures. So I always like those. But I also always like looking at the relationships that you've built where the subjects of your photos will share them and will talk about you in their caption or in their story or whatever. And like, obviously, if you didn't have a relationship with them, they'd be like, no, not fucking sharing that shit.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, say, and it's always people that I really like, or like even people I don't know, but I know that I would like. Like Chandler Smith, I always
Yeah.
see like you two like, kind of engaging, or like Tia
Yeah.
and Shane, or the Underdog crew, or like people that I know that, like, I get on really well with Shane when I chat to him. I can't see any reason why I wouldn't vibe hard with Chandler Smith. Um,
Yeah.
and then, like, I know I like all of the people involved with underdogs. So when I see you like that kind of engagement, I'm like, I really enjoy, like, I get a nice endorphin hit following you on Instagram because of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Um, but obviously there's like, is there ever pressure then when you have that kind of relationship with those people and you're telling a story about them to tell like a certain kind of story, or is it easier because like your role there is to show them in a favorable light anyway? So does that kind of circumvent that kind of problem?
Well, no, because I don't think we nothing that we do is like, you know, or at least that I do is trying to stir up drama or
Mm.
be salacious or um yeah, I think it's to a point where most of the athletes, they just trust that, like, it's like, okay, like, I'm comfortable opening up to this person because I know they're not gonna screw me over.
Yeah.
And if an athlete, they will do an interview, and sometimes they say something, and then right after, they're like, you know what, please don't use that. And I'll be like, all right, it's not going to get used. You know what I mean? And so I think as long as um, you don't screw them over in any way, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, it's all good. Yeah, no, I don't. I think I do a good job of um, um, walking the line between, it's a professional relationship, and then also sometimes it you become friends with people. But I try not to, like, I try not to, like, I never want anyone to feel like I am, like, oh, take a picture, with me for social media, or where I'm using them in
Mm.
any way.
Yeah.
I try to keep it, as professional as possible.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Um, well, look, we'll finish with a quick fire. That baby's going to be born if we don't if we don't finish up. Um, so dumbbell or barbell?
Dumbbell.
Football or CrossFit?
Ooh, football, soccer, or football American?
American. I know you don't give a shit about soccer.
I just don't know this. I just don't know that sport very well. I respect it. I just, like, if you were like, hey, watch the soccer game with me, yeah, you know what I mean? It'd be, I
That's
guess,
because
maybe.
yeah, but that's because it's me asking. If it was someone else, you'd do it.
Um, Football or CrossFit? I'll go CrossFit.
Film or edit?
Hmm. Film.
Bench or squat?
Bench.
Run or row?
Row.
And photo or video?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Because I like photo, like, as a personal outlet.
Hmm.
Um, but video is what pays the bills. So I guess I got
Yeah,
to
I
go
was
with
just gonna
video.
say video puts a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Well, look, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving so much of your time. It's been great to get to talk to you. I'm delighted we finally got to do this. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see all of the stuff that you've got coming up. I hope we get to meet someday. And best of luck with everything. When this comes out, you'll hopefully have a happy, healthy baby and wife and
Yeah.
everything else, and everything will be great. And oh yeah, I forgot we have the same wedding date. I forgot
Yeah.
that. That's another random
St.
fact that
St.
came up.
St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day
Yeah.
2018, that's really weird.
Is St. Patrick's
Um,
Day a big deal in Ireland?
I like it is and it isn't.
Okay.
Like we have no work. It's a public holiday.
Oh, wow.
Um, and there's usually like a parade depending on where sometimes don't have a parade at all, but there's one in Dublin, like a big one, and then there's some ones around the country, but they're usually so shit. There's like
Okay.
a tractor with a trailer on it, and there'll be a guy dressed as like Santa for no reason, and like just throwing sweets at kids. Um, and then there'll be, like when I see stuff that goes on in the States, I'm like, they really like St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Whereas we're just kind of like, oh, sure, day off work, that's grand. Like I
Yeah.
think, um, yeah, no, and like not much happens. I don't drink, so I'm probably like,
Yeah.
oh, it's shite. Whereas if you ask
Yeah.
someone who like loves a beer, they'd be like, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So that probably plays into it a bit as well. But yeah, best of luck with everything. Best of luck with the birth. Best of luck with the rest of your documentaries and miniseries, and best of luck with the games documentary coming out. And God, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's great. I can't wait. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah. No, thank you. Appreciate it.